This is actually where the previous owner drilled through the chassis. This little block I actually bought when I was in Japan from Autobox. So with that, we've got pretty much all of the wiring done. Moment of truth here. Boom. Look at that. Hello guys, and welcome back to part 2 of installing a 12 volt distribution block into your Evo. So in the previous video I did mention that I wired up the relay wrong. I got the power in and power out mixed up. And this is also a good opportunity to point out that I'm not an auto electrician, so please do your own research if you're trying to do this yourself, but I will do my best to detail what I've done here. So a quick crash course in 4-post relays as I understand it. You have 4 wires: power in, power out, signal and ground. In its off state, the circuit between power in and power out is normally open, so these two things aren't talking to each other. Once the relay gets a reading from the signal wire, the circuit between power in and power out closes, which allows power to flow through these two things and power to flow out to whatever you're trying to power. So what a relay lets you do is only have power flow out once your ignition turns on and not drain the battery constantly. So what I did there was I fixed the connection from the relay power out, which is the red wire, to the power in for the fuse block, which is what we want. And here I'm cutting and rewiring the power in for the relay, which is the black wire. So this will be connected directly to a power source from the car's battery. So I'm hooking up a nice thick, I think 10 gauge wire to this, which will feed the relay. There is a proper way to figure out how thick of a cable you need, so please do your own research, but for us, that's it, we're done. We're kind of ready to test fit this in the car to see if everything works. So let's go do that right now. As always, with working anything electrical in your car, don't forget to disconnect the battery first. So inside the car, we're going to remove these 2 trim panels and fish out that 4 gauge power cable that goes to the amp, which we'll be splitting into to get our power for the relay. So I've cut this cable, and basically we're going to be using this little Y splitter to split the power from 1 into 2. I think this thing is commonly used in stereo install applications, but let's get this cable split, hooked up, and we'll come back with how I'm going to get power out into the relay. Okay guys, welcome back. I've got this thing sort of half hooked up. I've got it mounted in here now. I've made this little bracket that goes to the ECU, and this little bolt over here borrows this spot pre-existing. It's in there pretty solid, so I'm pretty happy. We did get the power wire hooked up to the relay, so this guy is going to connect to the Y splitter kind of like that right there. This cable's pretty long, I might shorten it up, but basically at this stage all that's left to do is run a signal wire from that side of the car over to the relay, and then we also have to find a spot to ground it all. Alright guys, so I actually took it out of the car, and hopefully this is one of the last times I have to take it out, but as you can see I've run all the connections to the front of the panel like this, and on the back I've cleaned up a lot of the excess wiring that we had going on. We really didn't need all of it, so just shortened it all up. We've also shortened up the power cable. We didn't need all that length, so shortened that up, and I also connected the grounds for the fuse block and the relay together, which will both go to a common grounds, and this yellow wire is where we still need to connect the signal up. But that's pretty much it, so let's put it back in the car and connect it up. So here's where the ground connection is. This is actually where the previous owner drilled through the chassis for the ground for the stereo, so I'll just use the same spot. I probably wouldn't have done it this way if I had the choice, but you know, it's there, so we're going to use that spot. So this goes all the way back to the relay. As you can see, here's our Y splitter. We've connected the power cable up all nicely, so it's going to sit here. Power here is obviously going to run up into the relay, which is right here. Then we've got all of the connections for our accessories just hanging out down here, ready to be hooked up. So I've got a couple fuses in here now. I've got two 10 amps. So this will be for the boost gauge and the truss gauges, but really now is time to get the signal wire from the other side of the car. Make a line that comes all the way over to this side, connect the signal wire up, and then we should theoretically be able to test this thing, start it up, and see if everything works. Alright, so on the driver's side of the car, this is the fuse box. As I mentioned in the previous video, I'm running two added fuses on the existing setup. So one of them goes to the boost controller by itself, and the other one is running all of the other accessories. One of the circuits was for the map lights and the other was for the stereo, if I remember correctly. But here's how it was running before. This little block I actually bought when I was in Japan from Autobox. So it allows you to take power in and then split it into all these other accessories. It's a pretty cool solution, but it doesn't have individual fuses, and it's just kind of a little, I don't know, janky compared to the solution we have now. So we're going to be getting rid of this. So that's the Varex and the truss gauges that's plugged into this thing right now. And as I mentioned before, I didn't really like to hack up things if I don't need to. So this 12 volt cigarette plug is actually for the truss gauges, which I didn't want to just chop. So I actually kept it and I wired in a cigarette plug that I plugged it into itself. So that's right there. So, you know, let's just unplug all of this. We need to run all of these power cables over to the other side of the car to get ready to connect to the distribution block. And then we also need to I'm going to keep one of the added fuse circuits because I'm going to use that for the signal wire. So it's probably going to be the map lights. I'll keep that. And I'll run that added fuse wire all the way over to the fuse block as well and connect that up to the yellow signal wire. And then everything should really be ready to test. So that's enough talking for now. Let's get that done. Alright guys, so with that we've got pretty much all of the wiring done. So last thing to do before we put everything back together is to test this thing. So let's connect the battery back up and see if things turn on when we turn the car on. Alright, moment of truth here. Let's put the key in. Boost controller is on. Boost controller is on, that's a good thing. Gauges are on as well. Radio is also on. But with that, look at this. I call that a success. I think we did everything right here. Well, the power's done. Relay, it's only turned on when we turn the ignition on. Very nice, so it is switched. But yeah, awesome. So everything's on, but here's actually a good opportunity to show you one of the cool features of this little distribution block if one of the fuses go out. So let's just, for instance, take the truss gauges. So this is the second connection here. We take the fuse out and see this little light goes off to tell you that the connection has been broken. That little circuit is broken. So gauges should be off, yep, which is pretty awesome. And then if we put the fuse back in, that back in, light goes off, and hopefully, yep, gauges turn back on. That's it. Awesome little feature of this fuse block. I mean, you'll know when your accessory goes out if it's out, but then this little thing will tell you which circuit it is, so pretty sweet. So yeah, with that, let's tidy everything back up, and then I think we're almost done here.
A few moments later.
Alright guys, I got everything cleaned up, and I must say, like, with everything put together, it looks pretty neat. It looks pretty proper. I'm pretty happy with how this thing turned out. There's the fuse block in all its glory. I've got all the connections down the bottom here tucked away. I've got these little pull tabs I made with little zip ties. So if I tug on this, we'll have the next connection ready to go, whether that's for dash cams or a shift light or whatever. But then we just tuck it all back in nice and neat. But let's put the glove box back in, and then we'll do a little final test. So let's see what this thing looks like from the driver's side with everything all cleaned up. Pretty neat, pretty stealthy, can't even tell anything's back there. Let's start her up. I actually want to test the exhaust. Let's test the exhaust. Yeah, you can hear the valve opening and closing. Pretty awesome. Awesome that everything's working great. Let's have a look. It fits behind the glove box just perfectly, nice and neat. Wouldn't know anything's back there. But yeah, it's awesome. Really happy with how that turned out. The boost controller's working great. Gauges are on. It's looking great. But yeah, that might be it for this one, guys. Appreciate you guys for watching. I know this was a long one, a two-parter, but thanks for watching. Peace out. Actually, hold on. There is one last thing I want to do before I end this video. So the distribution block comes with these little labels where you can label the different accessories you have there. Comes with like some generic things like GPS, fog lights, bumper lights, things like that. But it obviously doesn't have what we need. We need boost gauge, we need oil pressure gauge, things like that, exhaust valves. So what I did was I made my own. So here we can see we have HKS EVC, truss gauges, exhaust valve, and then sneak peek into what's to come next, dash cam and maybe shift light. So I made those ahead of time, but let's stick these on, let's put this back in the car, and then we'll end the video. Alright, let's check this thing out. Put it in. I need to get a light actually. Boom! Look at that. It looks great. I love it. Alright, this is the real end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it so much. Till next time.